hear you.
Yeah. Light's always so weird in my house here.
Looks like you get some nice natural light.
Yeah, I'm gonna close the blinds so I don't roast it up.
Hey, Ricky. All right, Zoe, I'm going to start. Can I share my screen and then I'll give you back to share the public comment? Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. You can see my PowerPoint or my PDF. Can you see my PDF? Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. So we'll open August Affordable Housing Resident Oversight Committee meeting with an acknowledgement of the land we're occupying. And thank you to Tony and Consola and Thompson Smith of the Sheelys Calise Bay Cultural Committee and Emily Armstrong for recommending key language for tonight's acknowledgement. We as members of the housing system in Missoula acknowledge that we are on in the homelands of the Salish and Kalispel people. Today we offer our respect for their history and culture, for their ancient and continuing presence in this landscape, and for the path they have shown us in caring for this place for generations to come. We recognize the ways in which systems of government contributed to the disconnection of Indigenous peoples from these lands and their families, culture, and heritage. And it is our responsibility as individuals and as a collective to acknowledge the white supremacist culture underlying our practices and to be accountable to demanding respect for tribal sovereignty and Indigenous cultures and the needs and perspectives of Indigenous peoples. And as the committee continues to acknowledge with deep gratitude this land, may we also move toward action to redistribute power and resources to communities directly harmed by historical and current practices of colonization, to embrace conversations and behaviors that lead to structural changes. So thank you, and we'll call the August meeting of the Affordable Housing Resident Oversight Committee to order. So Zoe, do you want to do a roll call?
Yes. So tonight, Heidi West, Will Seaburn, and Laura Bird have excused absences. And so remaining, we have John Engen. If you could just let us know if you're present, please.
Present, thank you.
Thanks. Lori Davidson.
Yes, present.
Paul Herendeen.
Present.
Katie Carlson.
Present.
Jerry Stiffarm. Do we have Jerry? Don't see Jerry yet. Okay. Misty Brown. We don't see Misty. Christine Littig.
Present.
Riley Jacobson. Don't see Riley right now. And Bobby Weston.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Zoe.
So, Based
Oh,
on those
wait.
numbers, do
Go
we
ahead.
have quorum?
I was just gonna do some quick math.
Don't think we do.
What do we have? How many people are here? Looks like no.
2, 3, 5. That's 6. But I will check people in, of course, as they enter. Maybe by the time we go to vote, we'll have everyone.
Yeah, Misty just emailed me and I need to tell her how to get into the Zoom meeting. So then we'll have 7. So that can be good. Actually, Ricky, can I forward you Misty's email and will you help her?
Yep, no problem.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna do that right now. And then we should have it. Okay. So we're gonna skip approval of minutes until we have quorum, but we should have that really soon. Okay. We'll be back to screen sharing. So we're gonna do introductions again. As I mentioned, we'll do introductions for the first few meetings as we have people joining for the first time and kind of popping in and out with each other. So maybe the first time you're meeting a committee member. So we'll ask people to share their name and how they'd like to be addressed, their pronouns that you use, and your role in the committee. And then we'll review norms again, and then we'll move into some business. So I'm Emily Harris-Shears. I'm the staff of the committee. You can call me Emily. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm going to we'll just call on someone so that we can kind of keep the flow moving. So I'll call on Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Carlson, and I just go by Katie, she and her, and my role is the housing real estate representative.
Christine, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Christine Liddick. I go by Christine. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a Riverfront neighborhood resident, and I am a county commissioner appointee with a 3-year term. Paul, you want to go next?
Sure, I'm Paul Herendeen. I go by Paul, he, him, and I represent the financial industry as part of my day job with Clearwater Credit Union. How about Lori?
Thanks, Paul. My name's Lori Davidson. I go by Lori, she, her, and I am the executive director of the Missoula Housing Authority. Let's see. Hold on, let me get a different view here. John.
Well, thanks, Lori. I'm John Engen. I go by John, he and him, and I'm the mayor of the city of Missoula and represent that august organization. Oh, and I'm sorry, I need to call on Bobby.
Hello, my name is Bobby Weston. I go by Bobby, she, her, and I am a community member and the second alternate. And I have no clue who's left.
I think Riley or Misty. How about
I can
Riley?
go. Oh,
Oh, sorry, Misty.
hi, this is Misty. I'm the housing nonprofit, and I was the mayor appointee until 2023. Riley.
Hello, I'm Riley Jacobson. He is pronouns. I am a mayor appointee, first alternate, and my term is for the next year.
Great, thank you. Did we get everyone? Zoe, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, My name is Zoe Walters. She, her pronouns. You can call me Zoe, and I am the admin with Community Development Planning and Innovation.
Great, thank you. Glad you're all here. We do have quorum, and glad you're all here. Thanks. So Ricky, do you want to introduce yourself too?
Sure. Hi, I am Ricky Henderson. I'm the Housing Programs Manager with CPDI, Community Planning Development Innovations Department at the city. And I use she, her pronouns.
So we will just review our norms again. A reminder, the norms you all have agreed to and set and added to as well. Respect differing perspectives, step up and step back, be and stay present. If you're unsure of something, ask. Use a strengths-based lens or framework, celebrate successes, spell out acronyms, accept loose ends, push yourselves and ourselves, respect privacy of others when you're sharing perspectives and bringing things to the group. Take action where you can, accept the pace of the work and not being too hard on yourselves. Check in on norms and whether you still have comfort in operating them, which is why we're checking in on them each month as we get started. And then when we're in discussion spaces, raising your hand on Zoom when you would like to speak. Do you still feel that these are something that you can commit to? Great. Cool. Okay. So I wanted to follow up from our conversation in the meeting in July. I know many of you were not here, but I think you probably followed some of the follow-up emails and the agenda about the charter follow-up. We had a discussion about potential having a charter to accompany your bylaws, and we had some discussion about that. And we didn't make a decision on that and said that we would come back to it in August meeting. So I just wanted to revisit that and share just kind of a perspective and reframing of that. The potential purpose of your charter could be to have a communication tool for the community to express what your purpose is, to summarize your commitments and expectations of your bylaws. Your bylaws are really for you and how you operate, but maybe not an expectation that the community is going to read your bylaws and understand how you operate from that perspective. It's an opportunity to expand on your vision and commitments around equity and to communicate those to the community. And it's also an opportunity for you all to have some dialogue about those. You haven't really had a chance to get to know each other and have discussion about where you're coming from in those capacities yet, since you're new and you're still norming and forming around those. And I know in last month's meeting, I didn't necessarily catch this in the discussion, and when I was reading the minutes, I wanted to come back and reframe that there was a suggestion that maybe we write, instead of a charter, a preamble to the policies and procedures for the trust fund. And the charter is not intended to be a guiding document to the policies and procedures. And the policies and procedures are really not a guiding document for you all. The policies and procedures are really a guiding document for the staff of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and for the recipients of funding and how we operate in our relationship to the funding. And you all oversee that and have guidance around that, and do have a very important role in that, especially in approving that. But the bylaws and the charter have a separate role in that. So I wanted to name that and just kind of name what the charter and the bylaws, how those may kind of what their role are and the separate role of the policies and procedures. So that clarification is still not to guide you on your decision, but just wanted to provide some clarification following the discussion from last month. And just check in on where you are about whether you would like to finish the charter. We don't have time to do it today because of how much business we have with the policy discussion and potentially the innovation round discussion, depending on how the policy discussion goes. But if that is something you'd like to do, I think that would be, we would carve out in September. So I can switch over and you can look at the charter again, but I wanted to revisit that with you and give you time to fill in your colleagues who are not here in July and also just revisit that discussion. So I'll stop and let other people talk now. Does anybody know how to get me out of full screen PDF mode so I can share other documents? I'm stuck.
I think if you just maybe press escape, it should do something.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Zoe.
Yeah.
That worked. Thank you.
I was just going to say, I read the draft charter and I thought it was a really nice 3-page succinct overview of what we wanted to do and kind of guiding principles. And I thought it was really helpful to have.
Christine?
I'll just reiterate what I communicated when we last met, which is I think going through this process would be good for this committee in allowing us opportunity to get to know each other and each other's value systems and create a shared vision.
Anyone else? Oh, Lori.
Yeah, I would just say what I said last month, which is that having this really kind of brief overview of what the committee does and who the members are is a really nice thing to have available for the community. Doesn't require that they go through the entire policy or go through everything that we're doing, but just gives them an idea of what the committee's purpose is and who the members are, and what their vision and guiding principles are. So I like the idea of having a brief handout for the public.
I'm not hearing dissent on that. So I'm going to plan to revisit this with you all in September's meeting, where we will finalize your vision and we'll do some work where you'll get to have some discussion about that and set some vision work. And then we can also revisit the guiding principles as well as your principles around equity, which you started in the June meeting. I really pulled them from your discussion in the June meeting, but we'll do some finalization around those and then work to finalize your charter. And it can be a working document, but it can live on your committee page. If that sounds good, then we'll move forward with that. And we'll go forward. We're just plowing through. Great. Okay, thank you. Thanks. Okay. Oh, Christine?
Yeah, just a quick clarification. When you communicated working document, you meant until we finalize it, and then it's no longer a working document and will be something that we can confidently hand to other people to help.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
I think
okay.
what I mean by that is that you can update it at any time as a committee if you feel like, oh, something's changed. We need to revisit this as a committee, right?
As a committee, yeah.
As a committee, but
Okay.
that it doesn't live in stone, right? Like as a committee, you guys can say, we are changing this framework and come back to it, but it will live on your committee page as a final document once you finish it.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that. Is that a new hand, Christine, or is that an old hand? Okay. Okay, so we'll finalize that in September. All right, so we're moving on. I'm gonna reshare. Can you see my PDF now? Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next thing we're covering in non-action items is our knowledge building section of tonight, and it's about area median income. So I wanted to do a deeper dive into area median income, and partly, as you brought up in the June and July meetings, it's a metrics that ultimately impacts who's served by the projects that are funded by the trust fund. I know it might feel like we're doing this a little out of order since we've had really robust discussions about area median income in June and July. And now in our third meeting, we're going to do a deeper dive. And sometimes that's going to happen just by the nature of this work. And so I have a apology about that, and also just appreciation that we're all kind of learning on the fly, and to lean into our norms that, and Christine, I think you modeled it really well last month about like, if you don't know, just ask, and really that we're all learning together and that somebody in the room will know and can share, right? And so I just want to also model that I'm providing you with hopefully a deeper dive, and that there are other people in the room who have even more extensive knowledge of area median income than I do, and can fill in more gaps than I can. So I'm providing a primer, and then I invite you all to share the knowledge that you have about area median income and can fill in what I'm missing too. So I'm really just starting the conversation and invite you all to dig in with me. So I wanted to just start with, what is it? Area median income is the household income for the middle household in your region or in our region. And kind of said in the middle way, in a different way, if you took the household with the lowest and the highest income in a region, it would be the income in the middle, right? Kind of maybe feels obvious, but that really kind of clicked for me when I could visualize it. As you see the household bar at the bottom, that helped me kind of click for it when I was learning about it. And it's helped us, it's used to determine whether housing is affordable to a household based on the number of members and their income. And every year the census surveys over 3.5 million addresses to learn about residents. They ask how much income all individuals age 15 and over in a household make to calculate that income. And then HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, adjust that number for inflation, and then they publish the area median income. And so that number gets updated each year. And then we locally update our numbers each year and update like who can be served based on those numbers. So locally and nationally, typically it's categorized, area median income is categorized into 4 categories, which are extremely low income, very low income, and moderate income. And extremely low income falls within the categories of 0 to 30% area median income. Very low income is 31 to 50% area median income. Low income is 51 to 80% area median income, and moderate is 81 to 100% area median income. And I'm providing some local context, and I know you saw this in the PowerPoint already if you looked at it in advance, but what it means for us locally in our market in Missoula, what it means for people in our market for 30 to 120% area median income, and based on the percent of their household. And also I'm seeing how blurry this is, so I'm sorry about that. But you can see that, you take the number published by HUD, it's the median household income, and then it's adjusted for the inflation and the margin of error. And this helps us understand whether an income is affordable. Lori, do you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the area median incomes are local. So we're not looking at a national area median income here. This is based on the incomes of people in the case of Missoula, in the metropolitan area. So sometimes it's regional, sometimes it's if it's a metropolitan area, then it would be based on the metropolitan area. So this is based on incomes of people in our neighborhoods.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful. Thanks, Lori. And then what we can do with area median income helps us understand what's affordable to people, either by rent or by home ownership. So I provided tables on rent and home ownership levels. We'll look at home ownership next, but this is rent. So basically the calculation here is we took 30% of the area median income by household size. And this gives us the rent calculations that would be affordable. And these, like Lori said, are the local affordable rents for the local municipal area or local metro area, excuse me. And so this kind of helps us start to zero in on what the rents should be. So to provide more context to the memo that Paul provided in July's meeting, this is how we start to get those numbers, is through these calculations. And then we can pull it out even further and start to use it to create affordable rent or home ownership calculations, which pulls in more numbers and more factors in how affordable home ownership calculation is created, but still using the area median income as the baseline. And then we're using the the limitation that a household can pay or no more than 31% of their monthly income toward their housing costs, which include their taxes, their mortgage insurance, their property insurance, their homeowner, their HOA fee, their mortgage, all of those pieces, right? And then so that's where you get what the maximum cost of a house could be. And that's how we start to get the home prices that are affordable at the area median income levels. And so this is how we start to work up what a price would be affordable. And you can see that these are pretty low prices that are not necessarily available in the market that we're seeing right now. And so that's where the need for an intervention like affordable interventions become really important. And that without an intervention, like a trust fund intervention or an affordable intervention, people are not being, someone at 120% area median income is not able to find something to purchase at this level. And so that becomes really important. And so to provide even more, like I started to talk about, but even more local context, there are several reasons that we go up to 120% area median income. And that is, for one reason, that the housing costs in Missoula continue to rise. they outpace wages, and they remain relatively consistent over time. The wages have remained relatively consistent over time. And in May 2021, the median home sale price was $438,000, according to Missoula Organization of Realtors. And we also just see that the supply of homes that are available for people in that 120% area median income range down here is shrinking. And so we know that without interventions, people will be completely unable to buy homes in that range. And then we broke it down into some real numbers. Sometimes area median income, a percentage doesn't really translate. So we broke it into some real numbers that are one. Paul, do you want to say something?
Yeah, real briefly. I mean, for a lot of those income levels, I'm not sure that the supply is shrinking. I think the supply might be gone. Right. I want to be clear about that. It's that horse has left the barn, I think.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for saying that. So the we'll just keep breaking it down into some real numbers. So a 1-bedroom condo that costs $298 is affordable for 2 people. For a 2-person household that earns $75,000 a year. And if that household has 2 full-time earners that make about $38,000 a year per person, that's about $18.25 per hour per person. And that's wages of people who are working in hospitality or retail or educators or many part-time retirees. And those are everyday Missoulians who, without some assistance of subsidy, would, otherwise not be able to afford a home. And so, that is one of the reasons why in the housing policy and in the trust fund policy that you're going to review later and that you've been reviewing, we have consistently remained, continued to stay and going up to 120% in our area median income, even though like HUD and others do not go past 80 in their work, but we know locally that we need to go further than that. So I just wanted to give a little bit more context. I know that it's a really complex subject. We could keep going deeper into it. We will keep going deeper into it, but I just wanted to give a little bit more dig. And Lori, I see you have something else to add.
Yeah, I just want to point out for anyone who wants to take a little deeper dive into the data that the Missoula Organization of Realtors has a fabulous website. And one of the choices at the top of their website is the housing report. And if you look at that housing report, they have wonderful statistics, up-to-date statistics on number of houses in the supply available for sale, all kinds of data. They have rental data and home ownership data. They talk about sales data, rental data, supply data, and social data. And if you want to really stay up to speed on where we are in those, then that's the place you go. They do an annual report every year that several organizations, including the Housing Authority, participate in. But this is really well done, easy to read. Go take a look at it. Well worth your time.
Thanks, Lori. Actually, Dwight is going to join us in September and give us a deeper dive into that data.
Oh, lovely.
As a knowledge builder. So definitely encourage people to go read it and check it out. And that could be a really great primer to bring questions to as Dwight's going to come and show us some of that data in those dashboards as well. And Katie, thank you for asking him. Any other questions or comments or discussion about area median income? Paul?
Yeah, thanks. I just want to make a quick point here, and it's a little wonky, I'm afraid, but I think it's important just about what the median does and doesn't tell us. So what the median tells you is half of whatever is below that number, half of whatever is above that number. It doesn't tell you anything about what that distribution looks like. And I think this is perhaps more important when we're looking at house prices. So you know what the median price is, but if the median price is $450,000, everything under that could be $440,000, right? It doesn't necessarily go evenly. And presumably in Missoula, there's a long tail out to one side. You can probably buy a house for $3, $4, $5 million. But if the median's 450, that might mean that there's nothing available under 300,000. And I think that's an important point to remember.
Thanks. That's a really good point. What else? Did this raise any additional question? Oh, Misty.
Yes, my question is, Paul, thank you for making that point. I'm wondering if that is also how the median income works, or is it, I've always interpreted that as an average, but is it not? Is it actually?
I can't speak to HUD
Might not be a bell curve.
Mathematically, that's what the median is. So if they're using the term correctly, that's all that's telling you is that half the people make less than that, half the people make more than that.
Yeah, when you read their methodology, that's how they're doing it. Misty, we can't see you, so I don't know if I answered your question. We'll hope it did, and if it didn't, you can tell us when you're back. Anyone else? Is this helpful? Okay. So now we're moving in. Drum roll, please. We're picking back up old business from July again. Our business of selecting a chair and vice chair. So we had 2 people express interest in email. Katie Carlson expressed interest in the chair role, and Riley Jacobson expressed interest in the vice chair role. And so I'm just wanting to ask if anyone else is interested in being considered for either role tonight. Okay. And Katie and Riley, are you still interested in being considered for those roles?
I am.
I am as well.
Great. So would you both like to summarize your interest and just maybe qualifications that you shared in email just for the group? And then we can have discussion and then move forward.
Riley, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, so my interest in this committee in general and just the work that we're doing kind of goes hand in hand with my day job at the Poverello Center. I'm a huge advocate for housing as a human right. I think that right now in Missoula, we're seeing a very sticky trend and that housing prices continue to go up while wages continue to stay the same, et cetera, et cetera. I feel very fortunate in that we live in a community where this community exists and that we all kind of get to take the time to do a little bit of a deeper dive into that situation and find some solutions. As far as my, I guess, credentials, for lack of a better term, go, I currently serve on the Missoula Coordinated Entry Systems Oversight Committee, which it's kind of like this committee, except it deals with the housing insecure population. I'm also chair for Missoula's Coordinated Outreach Team. So I've got some experience putting together agendas, getting to know people and kind of doing the work that goes hand in hand with being on a committee. And I'm really just happy to be here and be serving on this committee with everyone. So that's enough about me.
I have a lot of the same reasons as Riley. I'm excited about this committee because I've seen how Missoula is becoming less and less affordable to so many people that live here. My background is I am the supervising broker at Solar Realty, and I actually don't really sell real estate anymore. I oversee all of our agents. And then I also have a background with a law degree, and I'm licensed in Montana, and I have a certificate in alternative dispute resolution. And so, and I'm currently the vice chair of the government affairs at Missoula Organization of Realtors, the vice chair of the Missoula Economic Development Authority, which is a county board, and I served on the board of the YWCA for 7 years. And so familiar with Robert's rules also. So those are the reasons I would love to be chair.
Okay, well, does anyone have questions or is there any discussion?
I'm sorry, this slipped right past me. You're both interested in the chair position? Did I get that right? No.
I was interested in the chair and Riley was interested in the vice chair.
Okay.
Paul?
Yeah, certainly, Katie, don't take this the wrong way. You personally, I wonder, is there going to be a perception issue if a representative of the real estate industry is chairing the commission?
I guess I'm not sure, like as if I would be getting like a special deal or something like that, or just that.
Sorry, not for you to answer, maybe a question for discussion.
Okay.
I wonder if the public would have a issue with feeling like the Affordable Housing Resident Oversight Committee was being chaired by a representative of the real estate industry. For better or worse, people might feel there'd been some capture by industry. I'm not arguing one way or the other. I just wanted to kind of raise that as an issue, potential issue, see if anybody has thoughts on it.
So I think I'd suggest a couple of things. One is this is largely inside baseball, and I'm not sure that the significance that we may think the decision has that much broad community impact. And I think having really the contrast here is pretty interesting. We have someone who's in the real estate business, and we have someone who's in the business of helping folks who have no access to real estate. So it strikes me as a fairly powerful combination. And I certainly wouldn't have any. I wouldn't be concerned about a public perception around that, particularly because your ability to explain decisions as committee members is the vehicle that I think tempers any of those misperceptions or any sense of conflict. The other piece of business here is that when you've got somebody, in this case, folks who are willing to take on the added responsibility of herding cats, I think I would be inclined to nominate them, but I'll leave that to someone else and support them in the endeavor.
I saw both of your hands at once. So let's go Christine and then Lori.
I echo what John just said, and I also feel that the process that we all went through and other members of our community went through to participate on this committee validates, at least in my opinion, out of the gate when we don't have a track record yet, when we're just starting out and building our norms. That process, I believe, validates all participants at this point. And I too think that Riley and Katie would be a great combo and representative in the positions of committee chair and vice chair.
Lori.
Yeah, and I would just add that on a board like this, the chair doesn't have the ability or the authority to speak for the board outside of the board consensus. So the chair really doesn't have a lot of power, if you will, to make any decisions for the board or to speak for the board without the authorization of the entire board. So I don't have any problem supporting Katie as the chair, and I think we'd have a very good team in the chair and vice chair selection with Katie and Riley.
Is there any other discussion, or are you ready to move to a motion? Christine?
Oh, it's okay. I was just going to say, we have these long pauses and I wondered if we wanted to go to a motion. So you're good.
Great. Would you like to move to a motion?
Sure. Can we do them in unison or do we need to do them separately?
We need to do them separately, I think.
Then I would move to.
Oh, we don't, John? We can do them
Oh.
together? Okay.
Great. Then I would move to confirm the package deal of Katie as chair in the role of chair for the Affordable Housing Resident Oversight Committee and Riley in the role of vice chair for the Affordable Housing Resident Oversight Committee.
Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll second that.
Okay. And then Zoe, do you want to do the vote?
Yep, I will call out your names if you just let me know how you're voting. John Egan,
Yes.
Lori Davidson,
Yes.
Paul Herendeen,
Yes.
Katie Carlson,
Yes.
Misty Brown,
Yes.
and Christine Littig.
Yes.
All right, so that is everyone. That's approved.
Well, doesn't Riley and Bobby vote tonight because they're alternates?
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, I have it broken down here. Okay. And then, yep, so sorry, Riley Jacobson
Yes.
and Bobby Weston.
Yes.
Great. Thanks so much. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations, Katie. Congratulations, Riley. Well, I know I am very excited to work with you and turn over the facilitation of the meetings moving forward. But I'm very excited to work with you both, and thanks for volunteering for this role, for these roles. Okay, moving on. So the next thing we're going to work on is another revisiting from July, or the revisiting of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund administrative policies and procedures that we started in July. And I want to provide an update to the discussion that we started regarding the increasing the area median income limit for rental housing. And Paul, you weren't here, but I wanted to thank you for your memo. And we had a really nice, robust discussion about that. And we did have a discussion about taking a recommendation to increase the rental area median income threshold to 100% area median income. And we did follow up that because it is set in the A Place to Call Home housing policy, that we will need to take that recommendation to council. And we are working on a separate project right now to create our voluntary incentives program. And that will also likely result in changes to a place to call home, the housing policy, recommendations in a place to call home, the housing policy, that will also need to go to council. So we are recommending that at this time, we hold off on taking the area median income recommendation to council and take them as a package in the fall when the recommendations for the voluntary incentives are ready as well, and take them all at one time, because it just makes sense in our order of operations to take all of our proposed changes to council at one time. And so we still are in support of your recommendation. We understand and hear you, but we would like to propose that for now, we pass the policy manual with the 80% area median income as is, and then revisit it when we take that package, and then make that recommendation, make that change at that time. Other questions about that? Okay, so then the next piece to the policy manual change, I know I sent this out in the packet, is that as I shared in July, the next step of the process was to share the policy manual with the city attorney's office. And we did that after the meeting. And the deputy city attorney, Ryan Sudbury, reviewed the manual, and he had some really helpful feedback for us. And he had some changes for us, some that were recommendations and some that were not recommendations, and that just needed to be changed. So I summarized the substantive changes that have been made, and the rest of the changes are just outlined in the track changes document that you received, that were just for full transparency what has changed. But then I wanted to go through the substantive changes with you and discuss the rationale, and then we can have discussion about those. I do want to be clear that the changes that have been made are not necessarily up for discussion, because they are either like at the guidance of the city attorney's office, or they were because of municipal code or other things. But I do want you to have understanding about why they were changed, and have full transparency about that. So the first one was that we changed the approval process for the allocation plan. So we just added more specificity to the process. So the municipal code that outlines the trust fund oversight states that the mayor oversees the trust fund, and thus needs to approve the allocation plan. So we just reordered kind of the process of the allocation plan approval, which will include that the oversight committee will be a part of drafting the allocation plan, will recommend the allocation plan to the mayor, but ultimately the mayor will approve the allocation plan. So we added in that step there. We added, this was Will Seaburn's recommendation, but I included it here since it happened mid-meeting. We just added a place to call home to the alignment in city plans and priorities section. We also added a climate action commitment statement that was at the request and suggestion of our climate action specialists and other community partners, just better aligned with our broader city goals. We updated the period of affordability. So before it was a blunt 55-year period of affordability for all projects, and then a 75-year period of affordability for community land trusts at the request of community land trust programs. And now it's a graduated period of affordability that stair steps up based on the level of investment and also the type of project. and we borrowed it from our partners in Helena with their permission. So, and it better aligns to industry standards and provides more nuance. And that was at Ryan's guidance as well. And then we also simplified our environmental records review requirements. It reduces the cost and burden on the recipient. And we will still have oversight and the ability to request mitigation as needed. And then we removed the procurement procedure. Paul, I think you also recommended this. So I hope that is exciting for you. It just isn't required at this level of award making. So we removed that. And those are the substantive changes that were made. And then we did some other just clean up things that were recommended. And I think, you know, once we are able to accept all of the track changes, once we can move that forward, I'm really excited about how it will look. And I think it will be, personally, as someone who's very close to the document, I feel excited about how it will be utilized by recipients of the fund. I think it will be a really useful, I hope it will be a really useful and interactive document. So I'll stop there and we can have discussion and I can answer questions. Anything stand out or any concerns?
Would you mind explaining the period of affordability one more time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in the previous versions, we had a period of affordability for all projects that had like construction, rehabilitation, acquisition, anything like that. We had a standard 55-year period of affordability. And actually, I'm gonna just show you. And now we have a, can you see my Word document now? Okay, so now we have a period of affordability that it like graduates with the level of investment and the type of project. So based on, so it's basically like small repair loans, acquisition, rehab, mobile or manufactured home preservation, and then the period of affordability changes based on the type or the amount of investment goes up. And then for community land trusts, the community land trusts in the community requested 75 years, which is aligned. Paul, that's NMCDC's POA, right? So NMCDC requested it and Trust Montana agreed that it should be 75 years. So we're just doing what they asked. And so we kept it that way. And Ryan, the deputy city attorney, agreed that we could keep it standard for them. So we just changed it a little that rather than having a blunt 55-year period of affordability.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Emily.
Mm-hmm. Did that answer it, Missy?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I think there was one other thing I wanted. I think that's it. I think that's all the big changes. We also, I guess one other thing I'll share is that with Ryan's guidance, we expanded the language so that really any kind of entity can apply. So it's not just nonprofits, which is different than our other awards, like for home and CDBG, community development block grant funding, because we will be able to award funding to a broader range of applicants. And so we took away some of the language that is more narrow that kind of guides you to have like a board structure and things like that. And we'll deal with requirements on a applicant by applicant basis. So we'll really kind of do that in the contracting space. And so you might have noticed that in some of your final review. So I just wanted to name that as well. But I think that this will provide a little bit less oversight than maybe some of the previous reviews, but still ensure that we are good stewards of the funds and that projects will really meet our goals overall. So I'm not seeing any raised hands or discussion. Oh, did I see someone's? Paul?
Just a quick one, and I remember seeing this language in here. There is a provision that projects can apply outside of an annual funding cycle, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the reserve fund balance, and that's actually our next order of business.
Oh, great.
But we did change the language, Paul, from the last review probably. So it used to be the minimum trust fund balance, but now we're calling it the reserve trust fund balance. And it will still be like a triggered fund round. It won't be just any time people can come in. It will still be like, we will open up the round and we'll let the community know that they can apply so that there's a fairness to that. But it won't be like they can only apply one time per year. Yeah. And we're still figuring out that mechanism. So it may be that people can apply all the time. We don't know yet. And it's part of it is our capacity. Because I'm one person right now and we don't know what that will look like. So we kind of have to get through the first year of grant making to know how we'll ultimately run that reserve balance. So it could change.
Yeah, thanks. If I could, I won't go on long, but that one is something that I do feel strongly about, and I think we should keep an eye on. A lot of these projects can happen very fast, and the market moves very quickly, and a lot of it is reactive. I mean, I know in the NMCDC recently, a parcel came up for sale. We were trying to work something out with the owner to try and apply a subsidy, keep it affordable. And that's not a project that can wait 6 months for the funding cycle to open. I mean, that was like, we got to get this done in 4 weeks. And I think a lot of projects like that will exist. So keeping a mechanism for that, I think should be a high priority.
Yeah, we definitely hear you on that. And that project actually is what spurred the innovation round, which we're going to talk about next. So, yeah, I'm trying to find that piece. I don't know where it is, but it's in here somewhere. But yeah, so I think we're open to that. We acknowledge that there has to be a mechanism. We also want to make sure that like all projects have the same access, right? And that it's not just like one agency or one organization can always dip in and like get their projects funded. So we have to be mindful of that in the community too. So I think this is a really like important approach to just keep kind of a learning focus and like what are the impacts. And so I think having you all as oversight too and be able to come back and amend things as we learn is a really nice balance factor too. So I think we have that in place to be able to say, oh, we need to rewrite this policy. Like Christine, I think we talked about that last time too, of saying like, we can revisit these and amend them as needed. So, okay, well, with that, are we ready to move on and adopt them? Okay. All right, so can someone, someone want to give a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move to adopt the Affordable Housing Trust Fund administrative policies and procedures as written.
We have a second.
I second the motion.
Okay, and I'll do the roll call. And so John Engen,
Yes.
Lori Davidson,
Yes.
Paul Herendeen,
Yes.
Katie Carlson,
Yes.
Misty Brown,
Yes.
Christine Littig,
Yes.
Riley Jacobson,
Yes.
and Bobby Weston.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have policies. Congratulations. Okay, so now we're moving on to the innovation funding round. This is our last item of business for this month, and it's to share the vision for the innovation funding round. Just a reminder, so in June, I shared that if the policies and procedures were passed in the summer, then I would like to bring you an innovation funding round vision and ask you to pass this innovation funding round idea. And I am really just asking you to do a lot of work in a very short period of time. And so thanks for bearing with us. And the purpose of this is really I'm going to talk about the opportunities of this innovation funding round in a minute, but we'd like to utilize the reserve fund balance and test the policies that you've just passed. And we've also, as Paul highlighted, we'd like to respond to community need that we know is there and that we know the trust fund can respond to. So I'm going to walk through the vision that we have for the innovation funding round and some of the process that we see. And then I can answer questions and go through the timeline and all of that. And then we'll kind of move forward. And we will be asking you to adopt or approve it tonight. And then if you do, I'm going to move forward with it tomorrow. And I've been doing work on it with the intention that you might approve it, but you may not, and that's okay too. So I just want you to know that. But the timeline is ambitious. So I'm just letting you know that ahead of time. So the opportunities we see for the innovation funding round are to respond to the community need for solutions now, to distribute funds to projects that are ready to begin or already in process outside of the regular funding cycle, for the Oversight Committee to determine the reserve fund balance award, which we amended in the policy and procedure process, which will really allow you to test your new process and procedure before the allocation plan, which is upcoming. It will inform the allocation plan process, which will be coming in the fall. It will also refine the application approach, which will be coming up in the winter of 2022. And it'll also allow us to test and hone the Affordable Housing Trust Fund administrative policies and procedures as needed. So we're centering our vision around the values that are really kind born out of the housing policy, A Place to Call Home, which are diversity of a healthy housing market that includes options and resources for all Missoulians, innovation and a commitment to innovation that ensures projects are as dynamic as the community it aims to serve, collaboration of Missoula's housing policy that relies on the collaborative spirit of the community and the strong public-private partnership, and achievability that reflects realistic projects or projections of city resources, opportunities that we have at our disposal. And the available funding for this project. So as outlined in the trust fund policies and procedures, the Oversight Committee, you all will identify the reserve balance each year as a function of the allocation plan. And because the innovation funding round is occurring ahead of the allocation plan, we're recommending that in addition to approving the vision tonight, that you will set the amount available for the innovation round as a part of this process. So you will essentially set a innovation funding round kind of as a reserve fund balance, if that makes sense. And that will be what we use as our award balance for the innovation round. So the trust fund revenue expectations for fiscal year 2022 are, we have a current balance available from fiscal year 2021, which ended in at the end of July of 700, or at the end of June of $726,000. And our fiscal year 2022 budget proposal includes a one-time investment of $2.7 million. And that includes a $1.9 million sale of the Scott Street parcel and $800,000 proposed from the American Rescue Plan Act and from general funds. And I should have updated that last slide. The sale of the Scott Street parcel is a little bit of a moving target, and we realized that is actually evaluated at $2 million, and the ARPA funds are proposed at $600,000. So this budget slide is actually correct. So we have two budget scenarios for you, and I made these so that you could kind of think about what you may propose as your balance that you recommend for the amount for the innovation round, and what you propose that we allocate in that award round. So there's two scenarios that you could presume for upcoming fiscal year 2022. The first is that the full budget request is approved in late August, which is $3.4 million. And that includes the balance of $726,000, the land sale of $2 million, the American Rescue Plan Act award of $600,000, and the general fund award of $100,000. And that brings us to $3.4 million. The second scenario that you could presume is that the full budget request is not approved and only confirmed funds are added. And that would basically exclude the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. Excuse me, I'm using acronyms. And that would include the $726,000 of our balance from 21, the land sale of $2 million, and the general funds. And that would give us $2.86 million. And so just to ask you to please keep in mind that that will include our full award in the winter, and what we would grant out or award out, both grants and loans in the winter award cycle. And then presumably that you would also want to keep and in the annual allocation plan a reserve balance as well. So just being mindful of that when you're making that determination tonight. So I'll talk a little bit about the application plan process. So we're planning to do one application centered around project goals, budget, deliverables, and timeline. And it will be developed and inspired from our unified application, which will we plan to use in early 2022 for our first full funding round. So it's actually already developed, this innovation round application, and we used it. We've already created our full funding round application as well, and we just basically pared it down so that it will help us inform what the full application should look like for winter. And that will include the community development block grant and also our home application. And it's meant to streamline the application process for applicants and make it easier to be awarded funds in our community development division. And the application questions raised by prospective recipients will be answered, compiled, and shared weekly on Engage Missoula. So there'll be full transparency in the process. So if one applicant asks a question, I'll answer them all directly on Engage Missoula, so all applicants will see the answers. And we know that it will be a shortened timeline, so we're hoping that that will help just everyone. And also, since it's the first application, we're hoping that that will make it maybe an easier process. So eligible projects, essentially all projects that are eligible within the trust fund policies and procedures are eligible. We don't know within feasibility and whether that means really people will apply with all of these projects, but we're not selecting anything out. We're going to allow anybody to apply with a project that they feel is feasible. Not going to read through them, but I will leave it up for a second if you'd like to review it. And just a note that our accessory dwelling unit creation program right now, I know you saw it in the policies and procedures, but just want to note that right now we're only able to fund organizations that want to create accessory dwelling units. In the future, we absolutely will. We hope to fund individuals, but we're just not there yet. We need to develop that program further. So the timeline is ambitious, but very possible. As I mentioned, we've done a lot of pre-work to be ready to do this. So tonight we're sharing it with you. And if it's adopted and you affirm the vision, set the balance, then we will open the round on August 25th. We'll do the workshop that night as well. And we will we'll communicate a save the date likely tomorrow or Friday, so people know that it's coming. We will do the application on the public Zoom, so that we will also have it on YouTube and it'll be available for people to watch if they can't make it. And then our whole application platform will be on Engage Missoula, so all of our application materials will be available publicly. And then it will be open until September 17th. The application will close that date. We'll be coordinating and collecting our scoring committee behind the scenes during that application period while people are actually getting their application materials together. And then the scoring committee will meet the week of September 27th. And then we'll move in October toward getting the funding recommendations to council, and then hopefully start contracting process either in late October or early November. And then our hope is to be kind of moving toward projects by early November, or depending on the timeline of the project. So that is our timeline. So there are two decision points for the Oversight Committee tonight. The first is the affirmation of the vision and the process overall. And the second is the determination of available funding for the innovation round. So I'm going to stop there and open it up for questions and discussion. And then we can move on based on how you're feeling. Katie, and then Lori.
I was curious if you had an amount in mind based on things that you've heard that people might put in as projects, or just general staff thought on that.
Great question. I haven't actually heard projects with amounts. I've heard some general interest, but I haven't heard an amount from projects. I have a ceiling that I feel like, based on the math that I've done and kind of what I've walked through, I would like to see no more than like 300 to 350,000. I feel that that would leave us a really meaningful amount in the trust fund, depending on the two scenarios, and could really also give us a meaningful first innovation round. And I think my range is kind of 150 to that 300 to 350 in terms of like meaningfulness and time and effort. But I also am open to others' thoughts. Lori?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions actually. This I just can't remember off the top of my head without going back to look at the policy, and that is, can a project make more than one ask? For example, if they need something to get started, could they ask for funding, and then if they have a gap at the end for some reason, could they come in at the end and ask for more? Or is it limited to just one ask per project?
Yeah, we didn't specify that.
Okay. So is that something that needs to be addressed, or do we not care? Is it just up to the, let me put that a different way, is it just up to the committee that's making the scoring decisions?
I think it would be a scoring committee decision.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it would be how it ranks and how, like, what is the need and all those pieces. Yeah.
Okay. And my second question is, when does the 2 million from the sale, when is that expected to be received? And same with the ARPA funds. When do we expect to see those? What's the timing?
John, you may have a better answer on those. I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. So ARPA is in the bank, and I would imagine we'll have a transaction around Scott Street sometime in the next 6 months or so.
Okay. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
It's a firm deal though. It's a firm deal though. There's no, is it still up in the air or is it firm?
Yeah, I don't think there's any squishiness there at this point.
Okay, because that would be important. Thank you, John.
It's, the price is a little bit of a moving target. Is that right, John?
Yeah, it is sort of based on kind of need of project and how we blend infrastructure, et cetera.
Yeah, that all makes sense.
But it is a confirmed project. Lori, did you have any other questions?
You know, just for the good of the order, sorry to interrupt, just for the good of the order, I think that I think the first scenario is the more likely scenario. Yeah, the 3.4.
And I just want to clarify that the total on this slide is the same. It's just the way I got to the math is that the 1.9 and the 2 are just in different places. So just a little bit of budget fun last Wednesday.
And it looks like Misty's waiting patiently.
Misty, do you have something?
I do. I have two questions. I was wondering, so it looks like we're giving about a month for proposals to come in, and I'm wondering what the purpose of that is. Is that enough time? And then my second is just who is on the scoring committee, out of curiosity.
Yeah, great question. So a month is sort of our standard. And we have reviewed it internally, and my colleagues feel that a month based on the application looks like it is enough time. And we've been trying to be really mindful about what we can remove and pare out, and like what we can ask for if you're selected in contracting rather than ask for upfront at the application, if that makes sense, just for people's time. And so we'll do a final review of that again as we get closer, just like, do we have to ask that now, or do we have to, or could we ask it at the contract? Like, we even like, for example, we used to ask for proof of liability insurance at the time of application, but now we're just saying, like, in the guidelines, if you're selected and you contract, you'll have to provide it, just as like a, just to take one more step of like, you don't have to give us this attachment. So
Right.
we're just trying to be mindful of people's time in that regard and just take some steps out. And so we think so, and then we'll also get feedback about that and try to keep paring it down for future. So we think a month is enough. And then the other question was about, can you remind me? Oh, the scoring committee.
Yes, couldn't figure out my mute. Yep, that's right.
The scoring committee is still being put together. They are currently, historically, they've been internal scoring committees. And so for this round, we're going to keep with that. And we may move that in the future, but for this round, we're going to keep with that. So typically they're people from our division. And I think we're going to add someone from like a planner. And then we're also, we typically include at least 1 or 2 council members, but we haven't reached out, and so we don't have confirmation of who those people will be yet. That's typically like grants administrators. It will be me, and then a leadership person from our team, and then council members, and then maybe a planner. So try to get a broad range of perspectives. And we also share the scoring rubric with the applicants, both with the application packet.
That's awesome. Thank you.
What else? Riley?
Yeah, so talking about amounts, personally, I like the idea of going around like 250. I think that gives a safe number to work with, while allowing people who may want a little bit more for their projects the opportunity to apply for that. So I'm mostly interested in seeing how everything plays out after the initial round of innovation. I feel like that's when you get a lot of good ideas about where to go from there.
Thanks. Are there other proposals about amount? Christine and then Paul. And Misty, is your hand new, or is that, can I put it down?
Yep, put it down. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem.
I think I would like to see us push the amount to the highest place that we feel comfortable, just based on intuition and perhaps also all of our experience with what is happening in Missoula, and not being aware of what need is or how many proposals we might see. I would love to see us do the best we can in a safe zone as high as we can right out of the gate.
Paul?
A couple comments, Christine. Yeah, that sounds good. A conversation that I don't know that we've had, or maybe it was in the bylaws, buried in the bylaws or something, is what exactly this money is going to be used for and how we expect to get it back. And I know that's somewhat open, but as we think about allocating funds, I would think about it differently if these are all going to be granted out and we're never going to see them again, or if these are going to be loans that we're expecting to come back. Maybe a conversation for another time. The other question, sorry to throw a couple things out there at once, but would be if there's been any outreach to affordable housing developers to see what their needs were as far as funding cycles. And I'm not trying to get too hung up on that hobby horse, and other people have way more experience in this world than I do. Lori might know more about this than I do, but I'm just, I hope we don't wind up in a situation where we're looking for people who have a project in mind that's far enough along and good enough to be compelling for a grant, but also still needs funding in this particular window.
So Paul, can I respond to your questions?
Please.
I think there will be, I'm going to do them backwards. I think there will be a combination of new and existing projects. I think that will always be true in the trust fund. I think there will be projects that are in the middle of their development and are at the end stage, and I think there will be brand new projects. And I think that's okay. I think there will also be a variety of projects that are looking, and it is outlined in the trust fund's policies and procedures, that will be taking grants and loans. But we didn't specify like a percentage that had to be grants or loans. And part of that is we don't know yet. You know, it felt risky to say it has to be 50% of both. And so we didn't say that on purpose. And so I think that's kind of the purpose of these rounds, is to learn about like what's the appetite and the need in the community. And then the other thing is, this doesn't directly relate to the round, but we are doing the incentives project, the feasibility analysis, and we are our consultant is interviewing developers, and we're learning about their appetite for development and affordable development and what's stopping them. And I think that will also inform not only our our voluntary incentives development, but ultimately some of our policies and like all of that too. So I think we're really in a learning space just overall. And so I think we're in a really good space to be adaptive and just keep an open mind about the next few years and how we continue to grow. So I just wanted to name that, and that if we all just kind of stay open to that, I think we will have a really great shot at adapting this. But we have to start somewhere. Bobby?
Yes, I was wondering, when we're saying like what amounts and everything, is there a possibility of opening up too much? And if so, what happens if we agree to more money and it all doesn't get used? Does it go back in the trust fund?
That's a great question. Yeah. So we can open up, you can set an amount tonight and we can make it open, and half of it can get applied for, and then the rest would just stay in the trust fund. So there's no consequence. We don't lose it or anything like that. It would just stay in the balance of the trust fund, and then it would stay available to be awarded in the full award cycle in the winter. Does that answer your question, Bobby?
Yes, it does.
Paul, do you have another question? I can't lower anyone's hands. I think it's because I made Zoe the host, maybe, or I made Zoom the host. So if you guys can lower your hands, that'd be great. Christine and then Katie.
Just for clarification, if we pass scenario B and then city council approves scenario A, the additional $600,000 is not accessible funds until the fiscal year of 2023. Is that correct?
No. I'm not asking you to pass one of these scenarios.
Oh, my
I'm
bad.
telling you that these are two scenarios that could happen in the budget cycle.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. But the budget is not going to be approved until the end of August. And so I'm just being cautious and judicious and honest with you that two things could happen. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Emily.
Sorry, that wasn't clear. Katie?
Is the 100,000 from general funds, is that going to be an ongoing every year? Okay, that's what I was
Yeah,
just.
that's
and
a
then-
funding resolution. So that's a minimum trust fund balance
Okay,
that's outlined in the resolution.
okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Lori?
Yep. I am classically pretty fiscally conservative. And because the 726,000 is the only amount we have in the trust fund that's been confirmed through council and is actually available, I might suggest that 50% of that become available for this allocation for this innovation round. And then we see what happens with the council budget after that, because you're actually planning to get applications of things out there before these are even passed by the council. So I would tend to go more conservatively. Maybe it's a little more than 50%, but you still want to leave some reserve in there, and you want to count your chickens before they're hatched, so to speak.
So you're proposing about 300.
Yeah, 300, 350.
300. Okay.
You know, maybe even up to 500,000 if people are comfortable with that. I just don't think we want to deplete it, and we don't want to spend what we don't have yet.
Yeah. Bobby?
Yes, I agree that 500,000. I know that with all the stuff we have going on right now, we definitely need to be able to help people sooner rather than later. So I think I'd like to see somewhere around 500,000, as we know we're going to have that other 100,000 of the general funds is guaranteed.
It's not passed in the budget yet, though.
And I would like to name a caution about 500,000. That is I don't know how this will land, but a staff capacity that I have a concern about that. That the innovation round is something that I've added to my plate that I'm very committed to. And I also will be writing the housing assessment report, and I will also be writing the annual allocation plan. And I did not work plan for the innovation round. That will also include contracts. And I don't know that adding that many additional contracts really is feasible for me. So I just want to name that I have a commitment to doing all of my work very well and to a high standard, and especially new contracts and new relationships with new partners. And that feels like it may be out of scope for me. Christine?
So just a re-clarification of what you presented earlier, your most comfortable high end is 350,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think 300 is probably my highest. but I
300?
would go to 350 if we're going it with a 50%.
Okay, thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, and I know you mentioned this, and apologies, I don't remember it. When was the, after the innovation round, when was the first kind of full funding round anticipated to be?
It'll be in February.
Okay. Good.
So it sounds like there's proposals for 250, 300, 500, and a 50%, which is about 350, 300, 350. So what do you, is there anything else you want to propose? It sounds like you're also leaning toward an affirmation of this vision, I'm assuming, since you jumped straight to money.
Thank you for breaking all this down, Emily.
Sure, my pleasure. Christine?
I was going to say the same thing. Put a lot of hard work in here and you do have a strong vision. So I think the committee definitely moved to money very quickly. Do you need us to make recommendations or move to order on a vote in any particular order? Are we affirming the innovation first and then the funds?
Yep. So I think someone will need to make a motion to affirm it, and then the money amount.
Well, then I'll just jump in and move to approve the innovation round vision and process.
And I second.
Okay, and I will call for roll call votes. You could just let me know how you're voting when I call your name. Got John Engen,
Yes.
Lori Davidson,
Yes.
Paul Herendeen,
Yes.
Katie Carlson,
Yes.
Misty Brown,
Yes.
Christine Littig,
Yes.
Riley Jacobson,
Yes.
and Bobby Weston.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then you need to make a decision on an amount as a committee, and then you'll approve that too. Or make a motion on that. Paul?
So I don't want to jump right to a motion, but I would propose that I think we've heard from this group a desire to do as much as we can. And we've heard from you, Emily, that 300 is about the upper limit of what's going to be feasible for your time. And so I would propose that number as a compromise between the two.
Christine?
I 100% agree with what Paul just communicated.
Lori?
I also agree. Staff capacity is a huge issue, and I think that you are a very good judge of your capacity. So I think 300,000 is probably where it's at.
Bobby?
I agree as well.
Katie?
I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move to allocate 300,000 towards the innovation round.
I second the motion.
Okay, and another roll call vote. Got John Engen,
Yes.
Lori Davidson,
Yes.
Paul Herendeen,
Yes.
Katie Carlson,
Yes.
Misty Brown,
Yes.
Christine Liddig,
Yes.
Riley Jacobson,
Yes.
and Bobby Weston.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Zoe and I are going to be very busy the next few weeks and days. But thank you very much. This is great. Katie, do you have something?
I just had a quick question. Do we need to take a roll call vote to approve the minutes from last
Oh,
time?
yes, we do. Thank you for reminding us. And
All
then Lori, did you have something too?
I
Before
did
we do
have
that?
one more question. Could you clarify for me, is the innovation round just this one-time thing, or do you expect to do it every year?
Good question. I don't know.
Okay. All right. I have to say I kind of support doing it every year because there are always going to be things that fall outside of that regular grant funding cycle, and there's nothing more frustrating than having a project you can't move forward because it doesn't align with the grant funding cycles.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. That's helpful. I mean, I think we have framed it as we're doing it because we have had the trust funds adoption for a year, and we now have policies, and we know there are projects. We've heard from developers and nonprofits and partners, and we haven't been able to move forward with funds because we haven't had policies, and now we have, so we're being responsive. But it's helpful to know that we might be able to use this model in other times, and it might, it's something to think about in how we satisfy the reserve trust fund balance model with projects can come in at any time, and we use the innovation round as a hold off of halfway through the year kind of thing. It's something to think about, and we haven't had a full year yet. So thank you. It's something we can definitely think about as we get through a full cycle. And to Paul's point earlier too, it might be something that kind of complements the full kind of life cycle of projects and needs in the community. So I'm glad to hear that it feels like it might be something that is helpful and responsive in the community. So I'm really excited about it. And I'm really hopeful that it will meet people's needs and help meet ultimately. I'm sorry, the vacuum is here again. I'm really excited about it, and I'm hopeful that it will ultimately meet people who need housing needs, and that hopefully some projects that are coming online quickly will also apply. So I really have high hopes for it. And I will also be asking you all to share it widely with your colleagues and your networks when we're ready to market it. So please look out for that too. And thank you so much. I know I've said it, but I really do appreciate your partnership, and that I've really asked you all to drink from a fire hose in the last 3 months. I've been teeing up projects for you in the last 10 months, and really just been like stacking up dominoes for you. And I just really am so grateful for your time and your partnership, and that you've just been like on board to just approve and approve and approve and listen and learn with me. So thank you. And now we get to just keep moving. So thank you. Bobby?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. And, I'm very good at knocking down dominoes. So I'm very glad to be part of this.
Thank you. September will be a little more mellow. And then October we'll be back to approving things and getting ready for the allocation plan. But September will get a little bit more mellow. So let's approve those minutes from July.
I move approval.
I'll second.
I think we can do a, do we have to do a roll call for this one? I don't think so.
We don't technically have to, but if we want to.
I think we can just do all to approve.
Okay.
Do you want to say that?
Oh, yeah. If you would like to approve the motions, the minutes, please say aye.
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 Awesome, thanks.
Okay, and it's my last facilitation, so humor me with a checkout. If you have anything to share of what went well today and what could go differently for next time. And we're running ahead of schedule. So, Christine?
I'll just say that I continue to be impressed with your thoroughness. Emily, you're also very quick to respond when I have any questions, and I appreciate that as well. I have very much valued how you've set the standard for running the meeting, so thank you on that front as well. And I do need to jump off just 10 minutes early tonight, so I hung on so we could have a quorum to pass the minutes, but I am going to leave at this point. So I'd like to say goodnight to everyone and thank you.
Thank you. Good night. All right. Anyone else? All right. Does anyone, Katie?
I'll
And
just
then Paul?
say thank you again. I feel like you guys are so organized going into this. It makes it very easy for everyone. And I appreciate how late you guys stay at work on these nights. So, and I'm very excited about the innovation round. I think it'll be great to see what comes in.
And I'll just say the same. I mean, facilitating meetings like this and then managing revisions on a 40-page document from 30 different reviewers is a tremendous task, and you've done a terrific job and made it look easy from the outside, which I'm sure it wasn't.
Thank you. All right. Well, there's nothing else. Well, thank you all for staying engaged in the process. I know I bugged you all with lots of revisions, and appreciate you staying engaged in the transparency process. So thank you. If there's nothing else, would someone like to move to close? To adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Great. Thanks. Have a good night. See you in September. Thanks for your participation. Good night.
Thanks you all.
Take care.